Hi everyone, and welcome to Crafting with Marilyn. Today I'd like to share with you my 2 paper pumpkin alternatives from the November kit. Here they are. Now I'm probably the last person in America still working on these, but I still wanted to share them with you. Let's get started. Now I know many of you already have received your December kit, but I thought maybe, just maybe, a few of you are lagging behind like I am and would like a few extra ideas of alternatives with the November kit. You might also need a few extra last-minute cards. Okay, so at the beginning of this video, I do want to say that it's going to be a 2-part video. We'll do 1 card with this video, and then we'll do the second part with the next video, with the next card. From the kit, we are only going to be using a few pieces with this particular card. We're going to use these lovely little candy embellishments, and then we're going to be using 3 stamps. We're going to use a little house. I'm calling this the Heart Flourish. Whoops, I think I have it upside down. The Heart Flourish and the Happy Holidays. Let me hold it this way, and I think you can see it better. And the Happy Holidays. From your supplies, you're going to need a piece of Whisper White cardstock that measures 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And we're going to be using it in the horizontal position. You'll also notice that I've dry embossed this, and I've done that with the Scripty 3D embossing folder. I always have to stop and think of that. So it's a very subtle tone-on-tone effect. You'll also need a scrap of Whisper White, or white, classic white, I guess we're going to be calling it now. And you're also going to need a scrap of Calypso Coral. You're going to cut the Calypso Coral with a layering square die with a scallop that measures 2 3/4 square. Once we stamp this and color it, then we're going to use the square that measures 2.5 around, and this is the straight edge one. You're also going to need 2 strips, one of Pool Party that measures 3/4 inch, and it's about 4 inches long, and then another strip that is a 1/2 inch, and you can make this whatever size you want. Mine happens to be 5.5 inches long, but I always cut it extra large because, you know, very often I don't get a good stamp on the first try. I don't know about anybody else, but I feel like I always rush the sentiment because I'm anxious to get the card done and anxious to have it all put together. You're also going to need some Stampin Dimensionals, and lastly, the banner punch. Okay, so previously I had, as I said, dry embossed this with the Scripty 3D embossing folder, and now we can set that aside. This is the envelope, and we're also going to be stamping on that as well. So the first thing you want to do is we want to stamp the house onto this piece of paper, onto this cardstock, so that we can start coloring it. Now with photopolymer stamps, just to remind you, you always want to stamp on some sort of cushion. In this case, I've got my Stamp and Pierce mat, which works really well. I save one side for stamping, and then the other side you can see is roughed up quite a bit. It is self-healing, but it still does get a little bumpy after a while. And that's the side I use to clean out my dies when little pieces of paper have stuck, and you can see some that are still on there. Okay, so we're going to stamp this not with black, but with soft suede. I thought that gave a nicer look. I've also cut this larger than what I needed because straight just doesn't seem to be my thing lately. So let me see if I can get it sort of straight here. On this, you want to press really good. You also want to give it just a couple of beats to make sure that the ink really soaks into the paper. Pretty good. Next, we're going to start coloring. Now, the colors that I've used are soft suede. I've also used the dark Daffodil Delight, the dark Pool Party, and the dark Calypso Coral. My little Boston, New England accent just peeked out just then when I was trying to say the word dark. So for the chimney, I colored it in with the dark soft suede. I did not do any shading on this. Okay. And then for the roof, I used the light. So I'm going to go ahead and color this in, and then I'll come back. All right, the roof is all colored in. So now we'll just color some highlights. First, you want to start with the Calypso Coral, and I'll tell you why, because we're going to do a little technique on the glass. So I want to get these little circles filled in first, so that I know that they're good and dry. And then I colored in the heart with the Calypso Coral. You'll see I'm barely touching the tip to the cardstock. It fills in very easily. It just kind of flows right out of the blending pen right onto your cardstock. I'm going to put this in the picture too, so that you can kind of follow along with what I'm doing with the colors. I also used Calypso Coral on this little gingerbread sort of detail. Boy, I keep coloring outside the lines today. Always, right? Because I'm on camera. My hand is not as steady as it normally is, but that's okay. We'll get through this. Okay, I'm going to stop talking at this point, and I'm going to do the rest of the coloring, and we'll just do a fast forward through this. Hi, so this is an insert. I guess I forgot to hit record more than once. So my special trick for getting a glass look, especially with white cardstock, is to just do 2 coats of Wink of Stella on a window. It darkens the window just enough that you can see that it's not pure white. It also gives, the sparkly glassine sort of effect. And that way it looks like windows or glass in the windows. Okay, that's it for this insert, and that's my little trick. Thank you. So off camera, and I didn't mean for it to be off camera, I forgot to hit the record button, I stamped the envelope with that flourish, again using the soft suede, and then I also stamped the Happy Holidays, again using the soft suede. This measures, the card I used, the scrap I used was 3 by 3. This is a 2.5 by 2.5. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now, and I'll be right back. Now we're ready to assemble the card. So as I mentioned in the intro, we're going to use the banner punch, and I'm going to use this side of it. Again, this measures a 1/2 inch. So we're going to slide it into the bottom, into the 1/2 inch spot. There we go. Now I like to start to partially depress it and flip it over and make sure that I think it's in a good spot. And we're going to go ahead and punch that. Now we're going to do the other side. So you want to trim it off a little bit. Okay, now here's my trick. I think I showed this in one of my Thursday Take 5s. You want to put one of these 3M tabs on the end of it. I'm going to try to center it. And these are just a little bit less than 1/2 inch. So this works really well. I'm going to slide this in all the way. Sometimes I have to finesse it in. Because see, now I can use this tab to hold it. I can also press it down so that I know it's not going to move. But now we can see that it is a little bit crooked in here. So I'm just going to straighten it out. Start to depress it, get it where I want it. There we go. And then it's very easy to just pull it out. And there's your Happy Holidays. Now we're going to do the same thing with the 3/4 inch pool party. We're going to slide it in and punch it. And then you're going to figure about where you want this to be and trim this as well. I just always like to cut these much larger than I need them so that I have room to play with a bit. Okay, I think that's going to look good. We're going to put this in. And, I could have used my little trick on that one, I guess, but I didn't. Anyway, we'll punch that. And then we'll go ahead and grab this out of here. There. Okay, I'm going to be using my liquid adhesive today. which I forgot to put on my table. So we're going to just attach this using the liquid adhesive. Oh, maybe I should get these little bits out of the way here. This is like a fresh bottle of my adhesive. There's nothing better than opening up a fresh bottle. It just flows so easily. And now I'm going to just take this and center it on here. I'm going to have to pick this up so that I can see if it's straight. I think I have it straight. Okay, we'll set that aside for a moment. And again, I'm going to use my liquid glue to attach the house to the Calypso Coral scallop square. I'm preferring to use the liquid glue because there's not a lot of room here for error when you're trying to center it. I'm going to pick it up again so I can see it. Looks like I got it on the first shot. That's unusual. Let me gently press it down, flip it over, rub it from the back. Bring it forward to make sure it's still okay. Guess it could have gone a little bit more to the left. There we go. All right, now I'm going to get our card base. Now I mounted this about 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom and 1/4 of an inch in. Again, we're going to mount it with just liquid glue, no dimensionals on this part of it. Let me get some glue where my finger was. Okay. Now, if you've embossed this straight, then these lines are very, very helpful in helping you line it up. Okay, next we're going to attach the Happy Holidays, and we're going to do that with dimensionals, as I mentioned. It's a short sentiment strip, so I'm only going to use 2. And again, I can use the lines now. I'd say it's probably about 1 1/4 inches up from the bottom. You want to allow space because you're going to add the 3 candies. Let me bring this back in so you can see. We're going to add these. Now, the order in which you add them is entirely up to you as well. I started with the pool party. And again, I used the lines on here to help me keep it straight. So the first one is in about 1/4 of an inch. And then the next one, what I did was I brought that in about about 1/4 of an inch from the scalloped side. And then the third one I just put in the middle. And pick it up, make sure I've got it where I want it before I really press this one down. Let's try that again. Let's see how we're doing here. I think that looks swell. And that is the first Paper Pumpkin alternative card. Stay tuned for part 2. And thank you for watching today.